Underneath a sky blanketed by the soft glitter of raindrops, Hannah sat by the window, deep in thought. She had been carrying a heavy burden, an unseen layer of resentment and grudges that weighed her spirit down. Despite her best efforts to fill her life with joy, her happiness seemed tainted, shadowed by the lingering bitterness she could not shake. She didn't want to be miserable, but it was like her mind pushed her there. Hannah's struggle was an invisible one, a battle within the deep recesses of her mind. She had always prided herself on being strong and tough, but lately she felt trapped in a mire of negative emotions. Her happiness was like crystal clear spring water, but the grudges she held were like dark, heavy oil floating on the surface of her joy, tainting everything that passed through it. No matter how much joy she tried to pour into her life, it had to filter through that layer of dark oil, emerging tarnished and impure. She longed for true happiness, the kind that wasn't marred by past hurts or unspoken grievances. She knew the key to unlocking this pure happiness lay in letting go of past hurts and forgiving those who wronged her. But the path to get there seemed elusive. How could she stay positive when her heart was so heavy? How could she forgive when the wounds still felt so deep and fresh? One evening, after a particularly trying day, Hannah found herself wandering through the quiet streets of her neighborhood, seeking solace in the familiar. The gentle drizzle gave way to a steady rain. The world around her blurred by the veil of water. She wandered into a small park, its usual vibrancy muted by the weather. She found a bench under an old oak tree, its leaves offering some shelter from the rain. And she sat down, lost in thought. As she sat there, a memory surfaced, unbidden but vivid. She was a child again, in her grandmother's kitchen, watching as the old woman mixed oil and vinegar in a glass jar to make a salad dressing. Hannah had asked why they didn't mix, and her grandmother had explained that oil and vinegar were different at a fundamental level. Oil will float on vinegar. No matter how much you stir, they slowly separate. But I learned from a school lesson when I was young, add a little soap, and it can break the surface tension, allowing them to blend. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind, and Hannah felt a spark of realization. The grudges she held were like that oil, separating her true self from the happiness she sought. What she needed was something to break the surface tension, to allow her heart to blend with the joy she so desperately wanted. She knew what she had to do, but the thought of facing her past grievances, of forgiving those who had hurt her, seemed overwhelming. The rain continued to fall, each drop a tiny reminder of the weight she carried. But as she sat there, she felt a shift within her, a subtle change. She realized that forgiveness wasn't just for the ones who had wronged her, it was for herself too. Holding on to grudges was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. She had been hurting herself all along. Hannah took a deep breath, letting the rain wash over her. She began to list in her mind the people she needed to forgive, starting with herself. The process was slow and painful, each name bringing up a wave of emotions. But with each breath, she felt a little lighter, a little freer. The rain began to lighten, and a ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the park. Hannah stood up, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. The oil that had coated her heart was beginning to dissipate, replaced by a sense of clarity and calm. She walked home with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to cultivate positivity in her life. She knew it wouldn't be easy, that the journey to true happiness was a long one, but she felt ready to take the first step. She would forgive, she would let go, and in doing so, she would reclaim the joy that had been tainted for so long. In the days and weeks that followed, Hannah continued her practice of forgiveness, each act a small victory. She found that the more she let go, the more space she created for happiness to enter her life. Her relationships improved, her outlook brightened, and she felt a sense of lightness that had been missing for so long. Reflecting on her journey, she had learned that holding on to grudges was like carrying a burden that only weighed her down. True happiness, she realized, came from letting go and forgiving, from allowing the water of joy to flow freely, untainted by the oil of past grievances. She smiled, feeling a profound sense of peace. She knew there would still be challenges, moments when the old wounds might resurface, but she was ready to face them with a heart open to forgiveness. She had learned that the key to happiness lay not in holding on, but in letting go. Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. James 4, verse 8.